19 states have seceded.
The United States Army ramps up activity.
The White House issued warning.
Saber 1, radio check over.
Saber 1, this is Saber 2. I read you Lima Charlie. Help me.
Roger, read you same.
Enemy HVT in the open, range 800 meters, wind call 15 miles per hour, right to left.
Roger, HVT in the open, 800 meters, wind right to left, 15 miles per hour.
Saber 2, this is Saber 1. Be advised, one by enemy football will inbound to your paws. He's right on top of you.
Tango down. Saber 1, this is Saber 2. Request permission to deploy Skynet.
Roger on Skynet.
Saber 1, positive ID on Swift. You are cleared hot.
Roger, solid copy. Preparing to go loud.
Wind call 5 miles per hour, parallax check.
On target.
On scope. Send it.
Welcome back to Gunfighters Inc. We're going to teach you how to be violent from a distance. I'm Brian Early. I'm one of the quality control managers here at Gunfighters Inc. I spent 8 years in the United States Marine Corps Infantry. During that time, I was a designated marksman in 2010 in Afghanistan. After that, I became a combat marksmanship coach on Parris Island and later became a combat marksmanship trainer, also known as a primary marksmanship instructor. Today, we're going to be starting a new series of videos focusing on educational content. First on the docket, we have known distance rifle marksmanship. This is going to be an introductory course, so if we miss anything, let us know in the comments below. Last video's top comment goes to Camouflage Kumquat, letting us know that Mac's pants are too tight. Nice. All right, you're a new shooter and you want to get into known distance marksmanship. Here are 3 main things you're going to need to know to get started to be successful. First, the fundamentals of marksmanship, how to employ your weapon system, and your ballistics and atmospherics. Please like, comment, subscribe. It'll let us know that you guys actually like this stuff so we can produce more of it in the future. Just like starting any new skill, the most important thing is starting with a good foundation. And our foundation is the fundamentals of marksmanship. If you get on YouTube and you watch any shooting videos, or you're on Instagram and you watch a lot of shooting videos, you'll hear a lot of people in the industry say, hey, if you only have a certain amount of ammo or you're just getting into shooting, just practice the fundamentals. But they don't often tell you what the fundamentals are. So what are the fundamentals? Well, quite frankly, it's aiming, breathing, trigger control, and follow through and recovery. Aiming is broken down into 2 separate parts. We have correct sight alignment and we have correct sight picture. Well, you might be thinking, I'm shooting a scope. What the hell is correct sight alignment and correct sight picture for me? Because I'm not shooting iron sights, so I have nothing really to align. Well, simply put, correct sight alignment is not having any scope shadow on the left, right, top, or bottom of your scope. You have a nice, perfectly crisp image. Correct sight picture, when you're shooting a scope, is using the correct hold on the target. So if I have bullet drop compensated reticle and I'm shooting at 300 yards, I'm using the 300-yard line hold. So that is correct sight picture with the scope. If you'd like to know what correct sight alignment and correct sight picture is for iron sights, comment down below. Now we have breathing control. Breathing control is described quite simply as firing during your natural respiratory pause. So everybody has a natural rhythm that they breathe, and it's firing in between those breaths. I'll take a deep breath in, I exhale. Before I take my next breath is when I would squeeze the trigger and take my shot. That is breathing.
Gentle on the trigger. Don't pull. Just squeeze.
There's 2 types of trigger control. Interrupted trigger control and uninterrupted trigger control. Uninterrupted trigger control is applying smooth and continuous pressure rearward on the trigger until the shot is fired. Interrupted trigger control is used anytime sight alignment is interrupted or the target is temporarily obscured. Follow through and recovery is the continued application of the above 3 fundamentals until the round is exited the rifle's barrel, maintaining consistency in the support and stabilization of the weapon. Now that we've talked about fundamentals, the next thing is common factors of a stable shooting position. We have bone support, muscular relaxation, and natural point of aim. Bone support is simply put using our skeletal structure to maintain the stability of the rifle. Connor's using his body in building a tripod and getting multiple points of contact with the ground, using his bone structure to hold him up, and he's not fatiguing his muscles by holding the rifle in place. Muscular relaxation is relaxing our body when we're in a good shooting position, for our muscles aren't fatiguing and holding up the weapon. We want to be nice and relaxed in our position and not forcing or muscling the gun into where we want it to be. Natural point of aim is once we've built that good stable position and we're nice and relaxed, where the sights naturally rest on the target in that position. Notice Connor has a high firm pistol grip where his finger can naturally rest on the trigger. Get high on the grip and wherever your finger naturally falls so you can pull straight back to the rear is where you want it. He's supported here in the rear of the buttstock and supported by both elbows and the tripod, having 4 points of contact with the ground. His body is center with the bore axis of the rifle, so he'll be able to absorb recoil and be able to get follow-on shots faster or self-spot. And his legs are nice and sprawled apart with heels to the deck. This is a nice flat shooting position. The next important thing to consider is employing our weapon system. You got your weapon, you've chosen a rifle to this point. Now it's time for you to choose an optic. You can go with a mil reticle, an MOA reticle, or a bullet drop compensated reticle. And then broken down even further, you have second focal plane and first focal plane. So let's talk about those real quick. In most scopes nowadays, there are 3 main units of measurement: mils, MOA, and BDC. Mils is mainly used in the military and overseas in Europe and is considered to be on the metric scale. MOA is more of a standard unit of measurement using inches with quarter-inch adjustments. BDC, or bullet drop compensated reticles, are more common in low-power variable scopes and prism optics such as the ACOG for short and medium range distance, but can also be stretched out to longer distances. This scope measurement is fine-tuned to specific bullet and grain weight, as well as barrel length. Today we are going to be using MOA to demonstrate the concepts of long distance shooting. If you have a different unit of measurement, the concept will be the same, but will have different increments. When measuring a group on a target, you can use calipers or ruler, whatever you may have on hand, but you have to always make sure to measure from the center of the 2 furthest impacts. Imagine you have 3 targets, one at 100 yards, one at 200 yards, and one at 300 yards. If I shoot a 3-round group at 100 yards and my group from center of each round is 1 inch in diameter, that is a 1 MOA group. If I shoot at 200 yards and I shoot a group that is 2 inches in diameter for all 3 hits, that is still 1 MOA in measurement. Because at 200 yards, 1 MOA equals 2 inches. Go out to 300 yards, same thing. If my group measures 3 inches in diameter, then it is 1 MOA at 300. And so on all the way out to as far as you can shoot with MOA. So it makes it a very easy conversion for teaching. If you're using mils, the procedure is the same, but 100 yards, a mil is roughly 3.6 inches, and every 100 yards after that, add 3.6 inches. So the conversions are a little more tricky for newer shooters. Now that we understand these measurements and how they work, we can utilize one of 2 methods, either dialing our turrets or using holdovers within the reticle. Dialing refers to physically dialing your turret's elevation and windage to compensate for the wind and compensate for distance. While dialing, you'll use your center aiming point in the reticle and then dial the correct MOA or mil for the distance and wind speed of your target. Holding refers to using the hash marks etched into the scope's reticle to compensate for the bullet drop and for wind. Instead of aiming with the center of the reticle, you'll be holding off of one of the hash marks in the scope. While using the hold method, you need to know whether you have a first or second focal plane scope. First focal plane, when you scale up in magnification, the reticle scales with it. So at all magnifications, those increments inside the scope will be correct at all of those magnification levels. Now a second focal plane scope, no matter the magnification you go through, that reticle will stay the same size. That normally means that there's a specific magnification that those measurements are actually correct in real world. And typically it's top magnification. Okay, you've chosen your scope. You have your rifle. Now you need to figure out what type of ammunition you're going to run in your weapon system. Not all ammo is the same, and not all ammo is going to work perfectly in your weapon system. You need to really go out into the field and test it. There's different velocities, grain weights, and bullet profiles. Another factor to consider is what you're actually trying to do with your weapon system will also help determine what ammunition you end up picking for your weapon. If I'm going out to the field hunting, I'm going to want an open tip match round that's going to have more devastating effects on target. And if I'm just shooting long distance on paper or steel, I'm going to choose a full metal jacket, just a standard ball round to be shooting. A good thing to do anytime you put together a system is get several different types of grain weights of ammunition and take them out and group them and figure out what your weapon system likes. Today we have 3 different types of ammo. We have the 168 grain Sierra Match Kings, 175 grain SIG, and we also have some 150 grain SIG. We're going to shoot 5 rounds out of each and see how it groups. We're not necessarily worried about hitting the bullseye. We're going to see what it likes best, and then we're going to move on to zeroing. All right, up first we have the SIG 150 grain ammo. We're going to be shooting 5-round shot groups. I'm going to be shooting on the far left target. Once again, we're not aiming for a bullseye necessarily. We're just grouping the weapon. We also understand that 9-round shot groups are a better demonstration of a weapon's actual accuracy, but 308's expensive, so we're going to be shooting 5 rounds today. Let's see how the 150 does. All right, that looks like a 2-inch, 2.5-inch group. We'll go down later and measure and see what it actually is. But we're gonna move on to the 175 grain and see how they do. I'll be shooting on the center target. Let's see how she likes it. As you see, even with the same manufactured ammo, there's a big difference between varying grain weights. So we shot the 150, about 2.5-inch group, not super awesome, and switching over to the 175 grain with a heavier grain weight, it tightened up about 1 inch. So that's pretty good. Let's see how it likes the 168 grain Sierra Match Kings. All right, well that tightened up quite a bit. Looks like about 1 inch from here, so let's go down range and measure it. All right, we're down here gonna measure our groups, and as you can see, the 168 grain Sierra Match Kings did the best, so that's what we're gonna zero with. We highly recommend, once you find out what your weapon system really likes, that you buy a lot of that same lot number. Even with the same exact ammo and different lot numbers, you can have various performance with your weapon. So it's really important when you find one that your weapon likes, that you really stick with that. Now that we've chosen our ammo, we're gonna go back up range and zero, and obviously we don't have too much to adjust. We bore sighted the rifle before coming out here, and so that got us pretty close on paper. If you happen to have forgotten your bore sighting tool or don't have one, click our link right here for our short on a field expedient way to bore sight. We just left the Gunfighters Inc. Pro shop. I had to reconfigure a couple things on my Geisley Super Duty. Had to swap out the rear stock for a Magpul CTR. BCM vertical grip's my favorite. We got those in the Pro shop too. And then I just picked up this Holosun EPS with a Trijicon 30mm scope mount. Gonna get out here and zero it, but if you guys need any parts for your AR-15s or any outdoor accessories, come by the Gunfighters Inc. Pro shop or visit us online. We've chosen our ammunition. We're back down here at 100 yards, which is the most common distance people zero at, and we're going to zero the rifle. So what is zeroing? It's really simple definition of it is getting our impacts to line up with the center of our reticle at a chosen distance, and we've chosen 100 yards. My group's about a 1/2 inch, a little over a 1/2 inch high, so I'm going to need to adjust my turrets now to 0.2 mils down, because 0.1 mils about 0.36 of an inch. So I'm going to go 0.2 down, and that should get us pretty close, and I'm going to go ahead and shoot to confirm. All right, as you can see, I'm still a little high. I am gonna take another shot to confirm, because 2 shots make a group, 1 shot doesn't, and I typically wanna shoot a group before making an adjustment. That way I don't end up chasing my tail and going in circles. Prime example of why I always shoot 2 shots. So I didn't group. So that first shot could have been me pulling it a little high, Now I'm going to shoot again, and if I confirm that I have a good solid hit next to that last shot, then I know my first adjustment was correct, and that first shot was just me pulling it. All right, so let's shoot one more. All right, I got a shot right next to that last shot. We are a little bit left, so I am going to make an adjustment to the right about 0.1 mil. All right, we just posted up a fresh target, and we made our adjustment on the scope. So we're going to see if our math panned out. We're going to call that zeroed, and don't forget, make sure you reset your turret stop back to 0. That's what we're going to do now, and we're officially zeroed. Something to consider when you're zeroing, if you have a suppressor, is whether you're going to zero the rifle with the suppressor or without the suppressor. Either way, you need to know your point of impact shift when you put a can on. So how do we put all this together to hit things past 100 yards? Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to do some math. We've pushed back to 200 yards where we're going to be shooting a 12 by 12 steel plate. I've entered all my environmental factors into my Ballistics calculator. We're going to use the Hornady app to help us out with that. They're not a sponsor, it's just an app that we like to use. It's free. There's several different ballistic calculator apps out there. Feel free to look them up. I've entered in our velocity, which chronographed at 26.25. So I have that in there, and it's giving me my readouts. So for 200 yards, my drop should be about 0.52. So let's see if the math is correct.
Impact. Impact. Impact.
Looks like the math is pretty good. We got our confirmation hits. So let's go ahead and push back to the 300 yards and check our calculator. All right, we're back here at the 300. It's telling me my drop is 1.3. All of my environmental factors have stayed the same, so nothing to change there. Let's see if it works.
Impact. 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 Here.
All right, nice. We got some hits there. Let's go move back to the 400. All right, we're back here at the 400, and so far so good. The ballistic calculator math has been pretty spot on. But one thing to consider, the further distances you push out, the more you really need to pay attention to how the wind's reacting. Today we got gusts about 5 to 10 miles per hour from left to right with a full value wind. So that's something to really pay attention to. The further you push out, the more wind's going to affect your bullet. And so our drop for a 400 is going to be 2.21 mils. So we're going to go ahead and dial that, pay attention to the wind, and try to shoot in between these gusts.
I didn't hear nothing.
Low left. Impact.
Yep, see, that's a prime example where you really need to pay attention to the wind. I was trying to shoot in between gusts. I wasn't paying attention. It picked up and ended up pushing off left edge. So let's go ahead and go back to holding center and try to shoot in between these gusts.
Impact.
400 and in, you're really not going to notice a difference between the ballistic calculator and real world. But as you start extending those ranges, wind, humidity, temperature all play a big factor. Those are when you're going to probably start noticing a deviation from what the ballistics calculator is giving you. And so make sure you play with it and fine tune it and get the best data per yard line that you can. Build out a dope card, tape it to your rifle, and just remember, as seasons change and temperature changes, that dope's going to change a little bit. So it's always important to go out and reconfirm 0 when you first go out shooting. Well, this concludes our How to Be Violent from a Distance, Known Distance Marksmanship class. There's a ton of information when it comes to shooting and precision marksmanship. We could have gone down a lot of rabbit holes. So this is just a brief overview of marksmanship to get you guys out there, get you training. Just so you guys know, this is all filmed safely. We're all trained professionals out here. And if you want to see more, like, comment, subscribe, tell us what you thought.